Michelo's life is falling apart. Pay attention, Michelo's situation in Venezuela is complicated. He owes several months of rent, and since Maduro fell, the dictatorship no longer pays him. Also, Facebook and Instagram took away his monetization. He is desperate and can't return to Argentina because of the criminal complaints. As we already know, Michelo already has multiple complaints against him in Argentina. If Michelo sets foot on Argentine territory, he will be investigated because he was an accomplice of Nicolas Maduro's regime. But please pay attention, we're being told here, some gossip that just came to my inbox. Apparently, Michelo's rental contract for the apartment in Santa Monica is about to expire. And to renew it, he has to pay a good amount of money, but he doesn't have it because he spent everything he had been paid. Since he hasn't paid him anymore, now he's upset. This is true, please. Let's see how Michelo is doing because seriously, the guy has lost his mind. Stay tuned.
It happened with Maduro for cheating. Now he can't pay on time. And the records, with some crappy tally sheets in Excel. That lady who's at Puerta Allá del Sol said, "I have the records in an Excel file." I went in and saw them. Excel file. Those were the crappy records. That's why they don't show them now. And with those crappy tally sheets, they bombarded Venezuela. And today, Donald Trump steals money from their resources. He's threatening Venezuelans living in Venezuela. And the tally sheets no longer exist. The cartel of the Suns no longer exists. The only thing that exists now are some sellouts.
Wait, you just said that the cartel of the Suns no longer exists. Of course it exists. Stop manipulating the information. Stop manipulating the news, Michelo. But please, before we continue with that, let's listen to what he says because this is brutal. Traitors to the country.
Traitors to the country, traitors! They kiss the boot of the guy who bombed them and steals everything from them.
Traitors to the country. Who could he be talking about? About Delcy Rodriguez. He's really mad at her. Just listen to him.
And Nicolas Maduro, after all the trash they talked about him, now they're all quiet with their asses clenched shut. They're that tight because they're cowards. Brave with the weak, brave with Venezuelans, but with the Americans, they're there kissing their boots.
Wow, brutal, huh? He's talking about the Chavistas who are currently in power in Venezuela. You see, Michelo is really angry. He's furious with them. He's attacking them directly.
Just as those traitors cheered the bombing and destruction of their homeland, they'll also celebrate the destruction of ours. Just like in Argentina, they're cheering as Milei ruins my country. We're eating donkey meat. The same will happen in Chile and Spain. And Nicolas Maduro was kidnapped with his wife with a bomb. They don't let him pay the lawyer.
Of course, they're not going to let him pay because it's illegal money. It's criminal money. But he does have the right to a public defender. Let me ask you, Michelo, the woman you put in jail who spent a year in the helicoid. I'm asking you, did that woman you put in jail have the right to a lawyer? Did she have the right to a fair trial? She didn't have it. Nicolas Maduro will have access to a lawyer. Maybe a public defender, but he has the right to a lawyer, even though he's a criminal and a delinquent. But well, in the end, the lawyer won't be able to do anything and Maduro will spend the rest of his life rotting in prison.
The United States admitted the cartel of the Suns does not exist.
Liar, of course not. They didn't acknowledge it, they simply removed the name Cartel of the Suns. From the lawsuit and everything that's being done in the trial against Nicolas Maduro, they removed the name Cartel of the Suns. This was purely for legal reasons, to not give Nicolas Maduro a single chance, not a single opportunity. But make no mistake, they're still accusing him of exactly the same thing. International trafficking of prohibited substances, blah blah blah. The accusation is exactly the same. Nothing has changed. They just removed the name. Period.
So, sorry for getting like this, but I don't understand how there can be so much hatred, so many lies, destroying their own country with lies. No, the sanctions and blockade have no effect. I saw a Tesla driving around. But the blockade of Hormuz, 30,000 kilometers away, that does affect the poor American economy. Poor Americans, how bad those Iranians are. Oh my God. And you're laughing, man. Whoever doesn't love their homeland doesn't love their mother. And if they don't love either, they won't care about Viejo.
You're talking about traitors. If they've talked about it when honestly, you're supporting criminals, supporting Nicolas Maduro is being a traitor. Nicolas Maduro handed over Venezuela's natural resources for years. I mean, Chavismo for decades gave away the country's natural resources to China, Turkey, Iran, Russia, North Korea. They gave away the country's natural resources. They looted Venezuela. Nicolas Maduro had more than 100 tons of gold in Europe. What are you talking about, Michelo?
They want a country abroad, and that's why they support caste. That's why they support Millet. That's why they support Trump. Trump kicks them in the ass with ice, and they're kissing his boots. That's how they are. That's how they are. They betray those who help them. They were given 5 million homes, they sold them and left with the money. They were given thousands of dollars from oil, and even so, they insult the people who help them in their country and in foreign countries. And I say it like this because it's true. Here I am, here I am.
Hey, calm down, man. Here we see Michelo talking about cowards and all that kind of stuff. Let's see, Michelo, you said that you had enlisted in the Bolivarian militia to give your life in the name of Chavismo, to give your life in the name of the cartel of organized crime, in the name of the cartel of the Suns. You were going to give your life to defend these criminals, and you didn't do it. When it came down to it, you chickened out, Michelo. That's what happened. At this point, you're in no position to talk about cowards. When Trump arrived, he took Nicolas Maduro away easily, even though weeks before you were posting things like this.
What's going on with the American army?
What happened? Why don't they want to come in? We're just going to let them through here. Come on through, come on through, come on through. Move.
Oh, good.
Nothing. Well, basically here they're telling us that Michelo is upset because he's not getting paid. And they're telling us that he's not making money on social media because TikTok and Instagram aren't generating much income. And on Facebook, they reduced his monetization for violating community guidelines. Honestly, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, the things Michelo posts and says, honestly, it really doesn't surprise me, especially considering how sensitive Facebook is. If he returns to Argentina, they'll jail him. That's what people say here. Of course, I mean, Michelo's situation is really, really bad. And that's why we see him so desperate. Pay attention.
You know he's on the verge not of destitution but of losing his home? Hello, gentlemen, and I'm bringing you the story. The thing is, Michelo got the plug pulled on him a while ago. Back in February, Delcy Rodriguez ordered Perez Pirela to cut all ties with the propaganda network. The propaganda network, for those who don't know and to give you some context, was a group of Chavistas and misfits who would make up anything on the internet to whitewash the regime. Well, among other things, they would spread lies about the opposition, Maria Corina Machado, and so on. However, since February, they cut off that pipeline that even Mario Silva used to benefit from. And well, unlike other content creators who can build up their audience one by one, Michelo had a base of millions and millions of followers. Sir, he had more than 20 million followers just for making fun of Venezuelans and their situation. TikTok decided to close the accounts. Since then, he has had useless accounts. I mean, just to show that he was a public face of the regime. In other words, he doesn't make money. Those accounts are not monetizable. He was only living off Maduro's little paycheck. Guys, the thing is that Michelo is about to get kicked out of the apartment because they don't even have enough to pay the rent. So I want to know, do you think Michelo deserves what's happening to him? Do you think he deserves a second chance? I'll read your comments.
What do you all think? Does he deserve a second chance? Honestly, I don't think so. I mean, I think Michelo should at least be investigated, at the very least. And look, if he were just a crazy guy who supports Chavismo, it would be understandable, right? It would be forgivable. But the problem is that Michelo crossed every line. Michelo got a woman thrown in jail, guys. A woman ended up spending a year in El Helicoide in Venezuela because of Michelo. So Michelo's situation is really bad. And if you ask me, I think the guy is going to move to another country. I think the guy will probably end up in Mexico. I've always thought that. I think Mexico is where Michelo will end up. But I'd like to read your thoughts in the comments section. See you next time.